What's up guys, welcome back. We've got another Lightroom tutorial, and as you can see we've got those really moody tones, those really cool blue shadows, a lot of greens, and then there's a pretty strong fade to the entire image. So we are going to be working with this shot right here, trying to recreate its exact edit. So as you can see, he's got some pretty awesome work. If you guys like his style, like his content, you guys can go give him a follow down in the description. I'll put his links down there, I always do. And if you like his style, he offers you guys his presets there, so you can just head over there and check them out. So let's get into Lightroom, see if we can create something like this. Alright, here's our raw image, turning it into this one here. Just gonna cool down the entire image for starters. As you can see, it's got a lot of blues and it's pretty cool. We'll add the rest in with probably split toning, and we'll move on. We'll drop a few things like the highlights, shadows, some whites, just to make it pretty moody already. And then we're gonna add in a lot of contrast with the curves here. So I might just brighten it up a bit before I do that. And I'll do the curves now. So that was just very rough, and we'll come back to that, but we'll just do curves. And we'll start with the red, green, and blue channels. Okay, so that's the curves done, and I'll just come down and do profile corrections. Okay, so we did our curves, and I just did a normal S curve in the red, green, and blue channel, and then you just make sure your colors line up pretty close to what they were before you did the S curve. So if you get it wrong, it will look something like that, and you've got way too many reds in your highlights. So you do a nice curve, and you line it up nice and even with each of them, and then you should have about the same colors after, but it will add in contrast as well. And then if we remove this one, you can see that it was had very harsh contrast, but then we added in this curve, and it's going to give that nice fade. So we will probably move on now. I might just come back up here, tweak a few things up here. So I'm gonna bring down the clarity a lot. So this is a really soft image. You can tell by just the real soft, almost haze to a lot of the image. So we're still pretty dark. Bit more contrast. And adding contrast here is a little different to adding contrast down here. So if I were to bring up the blacks here, you can see we're bringing out all that detail in the dark areas. But if I bring up the blacks down here, you just add a fade. So you can bring out detail or remove detail by these controls. But down here, you're going to be adding a fade. And that goes the same with the highlights. Okay, so we're looking way too warm. I might just cool it down. Just touch up exposure. So split toning, I'm guessing, is going to give us our cool tones. Let's add in lot to the highlights. And then we'll pretty much do the same for the shadows, but they're really warm. They actually look a little bit warm over in this image, but we'll still put a little bit of blue, just a little bit, but not take out all the warmth. So I think that's looking kind of close. I know I'm going to come in and change the color of the greens, so I'm not too fussy. I'll probably warm them up a bit, which will make them look a little more red in the shadows. So maybe some HSL now. I think all our tones are pretty close. How about we drop the saturation of those oranges as they're just standing out way too much. So the yellows are affecting all these little spots around here, all this green. So we can see that it's really desaturated back there. So I'm going to drop it almost all the way down. And then hopefully when I brush down here, we'll get back a lot of that detail. Well, I'll try that now. So brush, bracket key to make your brush bigger. And I'm just going to brush all over down here. Okay. I might do exposure. Maybe some shadows. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so going back to HSL. I want to make these greens more yellow, so they're looking very green at the moment. Shift them towards yellow. So they're lacking a bit of a punch. I might see what... We'll probably have to go over with a brush again to bring out even more of those greens there. Moving on. So I can see a little bit of purple way back there. And I think it looks really blue in his. It's quite hard to notice, but I'm going to shift purple all the way across. I think our blues are about right. And just looking at that house, we're about right there. So luminance, we've got quite a dull, moody looking image. So you generally don't want bright colors. So we're going to be mainly dropping the luminance. So as you can see, that sort of just dulls down those oranges. Actually, I might start with the reds. So I'm going to bring out down here with a brush way more. It's definitely been brushed. So I'm not too worried about it down here when I'm adjusting these, because I know I'm just going to come in with a brush and fix it up. Right. These purples way back there might be hard for you guys to see. Just gonna drop them. Okay, oranges maybe could pop up a little. Just to give the center, since it is the focal point of the image, could be a tad brighter than the rest. Okay, so we'll do some vignetting. Probably should have done that a bit earlier, but we'll come down here. Just drop it down. Feather. And if you bring up the highlights, it just means it will leave the highlights alone. So I don't want a big vignette going across the sky. So I'm going to bring that up 50%. While we're here, we'll just chuck in a little bit of grain. There's only a little bit. And it's very hard to see the grains. Okay, let's try bring out some of these greens. So I'll grab a new brush and I'll make it very small. And as you can see, he's almost brought out the individual leaves. So we'll pretty much do that. And so we're going to have to add a lot of color into those greens. How about if we go back to HSL, let's bring them all the way up. Bring down these blues as well. They need to come down. Okay, let's grab this big brush. Let's maybe pull back on what we did. About there. Let's grab this one again. Just brighten up what we did. And we'll chuck in more saturation just to make them pop. Okay, looking close enough. We need to really bring out the sky. So how about we do that now? So dehaze is always going to bring back a lot of detail. Clarity also. Then you don't want to go overboard on either, so I'm just going to add a little bit of each. Maybe some drop the shadows. Get rid of that. That was already there. Pop some whites maybe. And then as you can see, since we've added contrast, we've added a lot of saturation as well. So I'll just drop saturation, I think. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'll show you, here's before and then with. Okay, there's this nice softness coming in from the left over here. So you can see on his image, it's just extra soft all along there and up in this cloud and even all the way down here. So just gonna add in a bit of atmosphere and softness coming in from this direction. Invert it, reset. So just a touch of dehaze, as you can see, that just adds that nice mist and softness coming in from probably where the sun was, most likely. And then I'm gonna add in some contrast just so I can keep the shape to those mountains, but there is still that nice soft mist there. Okay, so since this very middle here is our main subject, we'll make it pop a bit. So I'm gonna grab brush, reset it. I'm just going to drop the blacks. So I look just along here, it just looks extra dark. So I'm going to drop the blacks, and that's just going to draw our eye into the center of the image a bit better. And that looks good. So the only thing I think I can see now is the middle here. I think the center bit here, this big rock, needs some softening. So we're going to do the same. Just not as much. think that's good. I think I need to drop the sharpening. Where's the sharpening? Down here. Otherwise, you could play around with the brushing, but I'm pretty happy how close that looks. There could be a bit more haze added here. And then there might be a few too many purples. So if I slide this to a lighter blue, it'll take out a bit of purples. I'm pretty happy with that, guys. It's pretty close, not exact, but, and obviously here's Photoshop these other buildings out. So if you want to know how to do that, just Google or search clone stamp tool in Photoshop. That's how you'd get rid of those. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a few differences. Would play around with the brushing these a bit better and maybe getting rid of a bit more of that color out here, but I might just leave it there, and I will catch you in the next one. But comment down below who you guys want to see, because what I do is I reach out to them on Instagram and ask them to send in a photo, and then I do a tutorial on them. So it really helps me if you do that. And yeah, check out the presets. Really loving all the feedback you guys give. And yeah, comment down below, leave a like. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.